Well, hi there, everybody. We're back, and I can turn off this simulated view image because we now have an actual image of the moon. I had to come outside. We were having a lot of issues with various network things and stuff like that. So instead of sitting inside nice and warm, I will be freezing. But it's okay because it's cleared up enough that we can see the moon. It's still a little hazy, but you can definitely see the shadow of the moon of the Earth across the middle there. Um, and actually, the angle is a little weird to what it is on the sky. I'm just going to rotate it. Other way. There we go. I'll just recenter this. There we go. Without any stars, we can't polar align the telescope. Normally, the tracking would automatically be set and all that kind of stuff, but I'll have to be fiddling around with it to make things work. But hey, we've got at least a view of the lunar eclipse. Now, it's still early in the partial phase, which means there's still lots of bright moon there. You can see the clouds moving across it as well. But the bottom left is in the umbral shadow, the dark shadow of the Earth. As that gets as that crosses the lunar disk, the whole moon will get darker and darker, and then eventually the bright part will be so small that we won't have the glare from it, and then we'll start to see the color in the shadow. That is, assuming the clouds cooperate. But we should be able to see, even through this kind of haze, we should be able to at least see that. So the partial phase lasts until 1:28. That's how long it'll take for the shadow to cross the entire surface of the moon, engulf the whole moon. Then we have about an hour of totality. So it is a slow kind of event, but we're going to keep things sort of organized here and hopefully be able to show you various views of the eclipse as it goes on. Say hi in the chat if you can see us, just so that I know that in fact we are getting out there. Yeah, there have been a number of different. Here, we'll get that going. There we go. There's been a number of different issues going on in terms of getting the internet going here, but it's all working now because, yeah, I'm outside. So I will duck inside. I just have to move a bunch of things and grab my mitts and all that kind of stuff so that I can stay out here. I'll be back in a few minutes. I'll leave you to watch the eclipse. Clear a little bit, and we can start seeing that ocean coming across. As you can see there, you can see the clouds kind of waving by. There we can see a little dark area of the seas. Yeah, this thing has been a bit of a challenge with these sky conditions, but what we can do here. That's better, hey? Let's just get the, now we're overexposing because the clouds have cleared up a bit. So let's just bring that down a bit. Ooh, there we go. That's pretty nice, hey? It's just like a little moon filter built right in. Several other people from our Oh. Oh, hi. Yeah. All right. So we've got the moon, and you can see, look, the shadow of the Earth is not a straight line, it is curved. Look at that, hey? It's almost like the Earth was round or something. This is actually a direct proof of that, but if you're watching this, you probably don't think that the Earth is flat because you know better. So we've got some cool stuff going on. We're right now watching the moon go into the shadow of the Earth. So there's an alignment of 4 celestial bodies. There's the sun, the Earth, the moon, and your head are all basically in line. And we're seeing this view of the moon. It's pretty cool. We actually have 2 streams going here. James, just down the way over there, is streaming as well. We'll do a little tour here. Here's the telescope we're using. It's not a particularly large telescope. It's just a small refractor. I've had this, well, planetarium's had this for probably 10 years. The mounting is mine. This is the one I use for my main astrophotography, stuff like that at home. And yeah, just using it to try and track the stars. We couldn't really pull a line, so it's not tracking very well, so I have to keep adjusting it. But yeah, and we've got some folks out here who are helping us out there. James, hey. James is also streaming on his Facebook page. And
YouTube, but that's all right.
YouTube, okay, sorry.
One viewer, it's me.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's see if we can get some of this video feedback. So this is actually cleared up, not quite perfectly, but certainly good enough. Because good enough is good enough.
If card on you stuff. Sweet card? Or just stuff?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I was gonna bring my camera along to try and take some shots, and for some reason, I thought, I bet I'm gonna be busy messing around with YouTube streaming stuff. Yeah, no, I think I'm good. There we go.
This lesson, like the last moment, I decided to take.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like save me.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm gonna just take a few snapshots from the feed here, so we'll get some pictures to put up. But
And this is like the recommendation of Iman. Say just a 300 millimeter lens.
oh yeah, right. Yeah, I've got a borrowed 300 millimeter lens that I was planning on using, but when the stream started taking all my time, I decided, nah, just do this. I wonder if I can get. Do that. Oh. So it's actually quite a nice view right now. I'm going to magnify a bit. So here you can actually see the turbulence in our atmosphere. The shimmering here is going on because we're actually getting the light moved around by the heat waves and the turbulence in our atmosphere. So everything shimmers a little bit. Keep getting these pop-up things saying, hey, do you want to do this? Do you want to upgrade that? No, I do not. Normally the full moon is just too bright to look at, really, and we don't see any of the shadows or anything that makes it look 3D. But during the lunar eclipse, the part that is not eclipsed yet is not terribly bright, and you can actually see the details quite a bit nicer. Uh, if you're a member of the Astronomy Club, the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada, Winnipeg Centre, or even if you're not, you can go to their website, winnipeg.rasc.ca, and the last issue of the newsletter, Winnicentrics, has an article by a fellow by the name of Jerry Shmerchansky, who talks about exactly this, looking at the moon during the penumbral phase of the eclipse and being able to see the craters and the details and things like that much, much better. It really is a beautiful view. We still don't have any of that color yet. Here, I'll zoom back out. We'll get the whole view. There we go. We still don't have the color showing up yet because the rest of the moon is too bright, but that'll come. There we go. Yeah, pretty happy with that view. I'm gonna go get my chair so we can stay here all night watching the eclipse. I hope you stick around with us. Okay, everybody, let's see if I can get a bit more volume out of our system here. I'm gonna move this in a little closer. Okay. Hopefully that'll help. Now I can reach the telescope a little easier as well. Let's see if we can get a bit more audio. There's some wind blowing into the microphone that I think is filtering out some of our audio, but let's see if I can bring that up a bit. There we go. There we go. Okay, hopefully that helps. Hopefully you can hear me now. Yeah, so I'm just going back through the chat now, seeing what was going on here. There was, yeah, YouTube should be back up and working. Everything is now working. Noah says, when will it be red? So the red color, I think, will start probably around 10 to 12 or so. Or, sorry, wait a minute. Where are we here? 10 to 1 or so. My mistake. So in a little while, right now the view is mostly focusing on the bright part of the moon because the bright part is still providing quite a bit of glare. We're not even halfway into the shadow yet. And so the color is there. That shadow that looks black is actually reddish colored. It's just that it's so faint compared to the bright part that it's not triggering the color sensors in your eye or in the camera. Now I might be able to do a little bit of magic here. Let's see. Oh, that's overexposed. Yeah, no. Yeah, the bright part of the moon, you might see a little bit of red in the shadow right now, but only when I really overexpose the image. The total phase starts at 1:28 Central Time, so that's in about 50 minutes, 50, and that will give us the whole moon will be in the shadow. There'll be no brightness to interfere, and that's when we'll get the nice red color. And the sky has actually gotten quite a bit better, certainly better than where it was just a little while ago, because we can see. And I just have to keep adjusting the scope to make sure that we don't drift out of the field of view, but that's a small price to pay. It's pretty nice. Ah. Okay. Oh, Carolyn, the volume's better? Excellent, thanks. Taylor, yeah, we're streaming from the University of Manitoba, so we're out here just out in one of the parking lots set up, and we were trying to be fancy and sit indoors and control everything remotely, sitting outdoors, but we were having some network communication problems, so I wound up just going right outside, and that provides the simplest system, but it also provides a little bit colder experience for me. That's okay though. That's okay though. Let's see. Which direction the sky is the moon right now? It's pretty much to the south, and it's about halfway up the sky. So if you're in clouds, that's definitely difficult. And there's not much you can do if you've got a cloudy sky. So, but the clouds are sort of drifting in and out. They've been moving a lot. So keep your eyes open. You might get a clear spot. That's what we had is some okay sky and then some thick sky. The audio's echoing. Okay, let me do that. There we go. That should be better. Yeah, it's hard to work this mouse with cold fingers. Okay, so yeah, we're I lost where I was. Flavia, you're welcome for yeah, it's always fun to stream when we can, and especially an event like this where no one's gonna have a public event that's gonna go from 11 o'clock till 5 in the morning. It's just not practical to have thousands of people all show up somewhere that late at night. So this is the best way to share the view. And we will be doing this kind of event when there's cool stuff going on in the sky. So we're here, let's see, with the Manitoba Museum's planetarium. That's my day job. We've got the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada's Winnipeg chapter, Winnipeg Center here, and they're doing some streaming and some photography as well. And it's yeah, it's a nice way to get the view out. Okay, I'm glad the audio is better. I'm not going to touch anything anymore, and hopefully things will work. All I'll do is center the telescope, and we'll just go with that. There we go. So it looks like the moon's a little bit less than half covered, but you can really see the turbulence around the edge, the shimmering, how the edge of the moon seems to just be almost like a mirage over the desert. Same kind of effect, the atmosphere twisting everything all around. I'm gonna get up and just do a little walk around with the gears, so I'll be back in a few minutes. And again, if you have questions or comments, throw them in the chat, and I'll get to them as soon as I'm back. Hey everybody, I had to go get something to warm up with. Got a little coffee machine working in the background here. So yeah, things are working okay. The haze has come in, and there is definitely still some of that turbulence. In fact, the turbulence has got worse. You can really see the rippling of the edge of the moon there. I'm going to play around with the exposure here just to see if we can get a little bit more of the color to come through. Let's see. There's a whole bunch of settings on these cameras, of course, and sometimes they work and sometimes not so much. Get a little bit more brightness first, and then yeah, no, the overwhelming brightness of the moon is just saturating the camera still. I had a chance to look through one of the visual scopes here, and you can start to see the color, but it's not quite as pronounced as it will be a little bit later. So we're at what, 12:50 now? So we have about 38 minutes until the start of totality. So that's how much time it will take for this shadow to go across the moon and completely cover it up. Go. Now, if you've just joined us, we talked a little bit at the beginning about, so this is like the super duper blood worm moon and stuff like that. There's all these different names attached to it. So the blood part comes from the red color of a lunar eclipse. People have started calling lunar eclipses blood moons. That's a relatively recent thing. Started on social media. Nobody really used that term before 3 or 4 years ago, I think. The worm moon goes farther back. The worm moon is the full moon in March, according to the Farmer's Almanac, and that comes originally from, I'm not sure which indigenous group, but they basically selected the names of the full moons from one particular group and have adopted those. There's a lot of regional variation of that because, of course, you know, the worm moon in March is because it rains in March and the worms come to the surface and so on. So when it's the worm moon, you know you're sort of in springtime. But that's only for the areas of the world where that applies. You know, it doesn't make sense to call it a worm moon in Australia where it's actually going to be fall time. So there's a lot of variation on these names, but they've all gotten picked up because saying lunar eclipse just doesn't sound as cool as super duper blood worm moon or bloodworm moon if you blend that together, and then it sounds like a horror story. But the main thing that's going on, of course, is the lunar eclipse. It's not actually a super moon, I don't believe. Super moon's another thing that astronomers didn't talk about until 3 or 4 years ago. It came out on social media and was sort of a way to publicize getting people to look out at the sky and stuff like that, and really got picked up on social media. But anything that gets people looking at the sky is a good thing, I think. Okay, let's get this centered a little bit more. Yeah, the turbulence is quite amazing. Usually you see turbulence when you look at something at high magnification, but here we're looking at, you know, relatively low magnification. If I really crank it up, you can really see how much the image is rippling around. But now if we just look at this part of the moon, I wonder if I can get some of the color in here. Let's, well, you're starting to see a little bit of red in the shadow, but I really have to overexpose things to really show it. So I think we'll get a better view in a little bit. Let's bring this back here. There we go. And I'll make sure that we're centered. There we go. It's not bad. We had the camera nicely set up inside and we had all of this stuff ready to go, but because we had to move everything outside quickly, the camera's kind of awkwardly placed. So sorry that you're looking up my nose. Okay. Let's see. People are Can the moon move faster? I have class tomorrow. No, I totally feel you. It is one of those things that we just have no control over, alas. Andy, this is the lunar eclipse. So we'll be seeing, oh, a bunch of people already answered that in the chat. That's great. The sky has cleared a little bit since we started, but you know, the moon is a little bit more than half into the penumbral shadow of the moon. And if we actually flip back to the simulator version here, there we go. Oh, there we go. So that's the real version. That's the simulated version that's from Stellarium, showing you where the edge of the Earth's shadow is supposed to be, and the edge of the outer shadow, the penumbra. So they match up pretty well, which is good. That's one of the cool things about eclipses that we can actually predict them with a high degree of accuracy, which basically tells us that when it comes to gravitation, gravity and bodies orbiting each other and that kind of stuff, we pretty much know what we're talking about. And you know, any of the ideas of you know, the universe being different than is described, that doesn't really hold any water, because if that was the case, then we wouldn't be able to predict eclipses like this with this level of accuracy, because the model that we use basically, you know, takes all of the scientific knowledge that we've gained over 5,000 years or whatever, and puts it all together. And it's all dependent. You can't just say, oh, by the way, I think the Earth is flat, and still have all these predictions work out. So um, this is kind of proof that scientists kind of know what they're talking about, which is good. I'm starting to see a little bit of color in the sky. Let's see if I can pull it out again with the camera. Just bring up the exposure a bit here. There we go. I'll have to move that to center it. So we're starting to see a little bit of color in the shadow there. I'll try and balance this exposure a little bit to try and bring it out as much as I can. It's funny. There we go. There's some red in the shadow there. There we go. We overexposed the bright part, but we're starting to see the red in the bottom half of the moon there. This is one of the funny things of astronomy. I mean, we think, oh, these cameras are so much more sensitive than the human eye, and they can do all of that stuff. But the eye is actually very adaptable to changes in brightness. And so when I look at the moon like this, I can actually see the bright part of the moon, I can see the shadowed part of the moon, and I can see a little bit of reddish color with my eye. The camera can't show all those things at the same time. It has a much more limited range in some ways. So we're starting to see that red color now. It'll become more dramatic as the rest of the moon disappears. The bright part gets into the shadow. The color of an eclipse, we actually can't predict very well in advance. We say it's going to be red, and that's the general color, but it depends on the amount of pollution in the atmosphere, the amount of clouds there are all the way around the edge of the Earth where the sunlight is streaming through. It depends on if there's been a volcanic eruption or things like that. There was an eclipse back in maybe the early 90s, and Mount Pinatubo in the Philippines, the volcano had just erupted and put a whole bunch of ash up into the stratosphere. And when the moon went into the Earth's shadow that year during the eclipse, it disappeared completely. Like, it didn't turn red, it turned black. And so unless you knew where it was, you couldn't see it in the sky. It was really eerie. I'd never seen anything like that before. But by the time the next year came around, the air had cleared a little bit, and the eclipse was still fairly dark, but it was a little bit back to normal. You can see some of the clouds drifting in front of the moon there. We're still wrestling those, but the red color is starting to pop out at the bottom there. And I know we're a little overexposed on the bright part, but I'd rather show the color because that's the feature, I guess, of what we're hoping to see. There we go. That's a bit better. Okay, I'll be back in a couple of minutes. Just gonna go make a couple more, and I'll see you in a few minutes. Do we not have audio? Do we have audio now? Hopefully we have audio now. There we go. All right, okay. So I just took a little video, um, and we're just talking about just the images of the moon that you see online. Often they're heavily processed, or they are just a, a video. And what you do is you take a number of the frames that are nice and clear, and you throw away all the frames that are distorted by the turbulence or the atmosphere or things like that. So that is how you get those really, really nice pictures. So I just took some video and we'll post those shots probably not tomorrow morning because right now I'm planning to be here till 5 in the morning and I don't want to get up super early tomorrow, but sometime tomorrow I will post some processed pictures as well. And some of the other folks who are taking shots with DSLR cameras and zoom lenses and telescopes and stuff as well. But that's a pretty nice image right there. Let's see, what else does the chat have to say? Oh, you're welcome. We're happy to do this. It's nice to be able to do streams like this. Thanks for hanging out with me because if I was sitting here by myself just being cold, that would be no fun either. Okay, let's see. I think maybe we'll zoom in again and just see what the moon looks like. There we go. You can see that there's this sort of coppery red color all over the moon. Some of the moon has gotten quite dark so that you can hardly see anything. Maybe I can bring that up just a little bit. There we go. And it really fades from the red color to sort of through a grayish layer and then off into the faint shadow, which basically doesn't block out much of the moonlight at all. So there's these transition zones, and the color really changes even minute to minute if you're looking at this visually. Now, if you don't have a telescope, even a pair of binoculars would be a great thing to use to watch this. Actually, binoculars are my favorite instrument for watching eclipses, lunar eclipses particularly, because when you're looking with both eyes, the 3D effect is really heightened. And when you see the moon with both eyes through a pair of binoculars, even just everyday household ones, it really gives you a great view, and the colors really pop through the binoculars. So looking up into the sky, I wonder if I can show you the looking up into the sky view. Probably not, but we're going to try anyway. Can you see the moon up there? No, you can't. Oh, wait. No, that's not it. There's the moon. Yeah, it's too small for you to see probably, but it's just a very thin fingernail clipping right now that we can see, and the rest of it is in shadow. And then the view through the telescope that we're seeing, you can see that really thin white part is all that we're seeing with the unaided eye, but the camera's bringing out the color. So that's pretty cool. Bring this back in. There we go. Ah. So only 3 hours and 40 minutes to go till the end of the event. Yeah, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. I brought some warm stuff, but I was planning on sitting inside and just right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm just talking with the astronomy club folks. Tracy is was prepared to be outside the whole night, and I am benefiting from her generosity. Okay, how's our power doing? Down to 64%. Well, that's okay. So we're 8 minutes away from the total phase of the eclipse. That's when that little sliver of bright moon will disappear. Here to show, that's what it looks like to the unaided eye. Just that tiny little sliver of moon like that. And even that little bit is enough to make your eyes not notice the color. When we use the camera, we get this beautiful view with the color that really shows up at the expense of overexposing that other part. But that other, we can see the moon regular brightness anytime. So looking at it like this is kind of the point. Yvonne asks, what time will it be full red? Well, should be beginning about 1:28 Central Time. And that's when the whole moon will be in the shadow. The peak of the eclipse is 1:58 Central Time. So that will be the time when it's in the deepest part of the shadow, and that allows you to basically see the most red that you'll see. Um, let's see, we had another comment here. Hold the binoculars up to the camera. Yeah, I wish. Next time, yeah, that's the kind of thing that just doesn't translate to a live stream like this. So if you have a chance, get out and even if you just go outside with your eyes, just take a look at it and watch it yourself. Let's see, there was another question that went by so quickly that I missed it. Lily says, this is so cool. My astronomy teacher recommended this live stream for me. Good. I'm glad. Let us know where you're from. I'd love to know who recommended the stream to you. You don't have to post it publicly or anything like that, but you can always reach us through social media, or if you want to hit me directly, my email is space@manitobamuseum.ca. That goes right to my desk, and so we'd love to hear, where you're from or what you want to what you'd like to see, other events or other kinds of things that we can do for streams. Will it start to show red to some extent when it reaches the total eclipse phase? Yes, it will. And even now, we're getting that red phase in the camera. The moon is, it is just a thin sliver to the unaided eye. Again, to sort of simulate that, that's what I'm seeing with the unaided eye, just that tiny sliver of white moon, and then sort of a black circle there. Um, Now, one of the things that affects whether you see the color or not is um, how many other lights are around you. If like here we're in a parking lot with parking lot lights on, we might not get a great view with our eyes of the color unless you can sort of block out some of those lights, block the view of the street lights and things like that. If you're in a backyard or some place where there's a lot of street lights, the red color is dimmed. This actually seems to be a pretty dark eclipse relative to the other ones that I've seen. And so when the shadow is darker, it doesn't trigger our color sensors in our eyes as much. And so, excuse me. And so depending on how sensitive your eyes are, you may see more or less red color. And as I was saying earlier, that's something that's really hard to predict because there are so many factors that go into, how much light gets through the atmosphere and whether it's cloudy at those places. And it's basically just all the light from all the sunrises and sunsets all around the world right now. That's the only light that is reaching the moon. And that's what's giving us this sort of red color. So if it's cloudy in some of those places, not as much light is getting through, it'll be a darker eclipse and so on. Let's see. It's early enough in the year that there shouldn't be too much forest fire smoke or anything like that to affect the view. Let's see. There's just a hair of moon left. I can still barely see the little thin crescent, but there's not a lot of moon left. It's pretty nice. I'm really glad we got some skies clearing up. It looked like it was going to be a write-off, to be honest. And then the forecast turned into sort of a 50-50 thing. So we figured we'd come out and be ready for it. Part of me was saying, oh, it's cloudy, we should just go to bed. But I'm glad that we persevered and came out here because this is a nice view. And the eclipse 3 years ago, I think we were clouded out. And I did one the year before that where it was in November and it was about minus 35 degrees and a strong wind, and I was out in my backyard freezing trying to manually point the telescope. That was one of our first streaming events, and this is so much more comfortable. So this is probably the best lunar eclipse that I've seen in at least the last 5 years. Okay, I think we are just about a minute away from the official start of totality. I can still see the moon up there, barely, but and I can see if I block out all the other lights with my arm, I can see a little bit of color at the bottom of the moon. I think in another 10 minutes or so, when we're fully in the Earth's shadow, that'll be visible across much of the rest of the moon. If you've got a phone or a camera, get out there and take a picture, because that will show the color quite a bit more easily. The camera is much more sensitive to red light specifically than our eyes are, and so that'll really help you see that. Yeah, that's pretty nice. Let's get a little bit. We need to increase our exposure time a little bit, I think, because the moon is so much dimmer that we're just not getting as much light in here. There we go. That brings the noise down a bit. You may hear the sound of various cameras around clicking and stuff like that, because we got a lot of folks here taking pictures. What's that? Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. We are now in the total phase of the eclipse. There's still brightness along the top there, but if I click back to our sort of naked eye view, yeah, there's not much there that you can see. There's just a little bit along the top. Okay, let's go back to there we go. That's the view I like. Okay. Hey, Kim from Kingston. Good to see you. We'll see you tomorrow night at our astronomy club meeting. Kim's going to be giving a talk from Kingston here into Winnipeg. But yeah, it is a dark eclipse, isn't it? I mean, I'm looking up there, naked eye. I can see where the moon is because the edge of the moon is still bright. Even though we're in totality, there's still, we're still near the edge of the shadow. I bet in half an hour, when we're in the mid-eclipse phase, we might not be able to see it at all. It is quite a dark eclipse. I wonder why. I mean, I don't recall any volcanic eruptions or things like that. Let's see. Oh, here's how often lunar eclipses happen, says Livini. Well, they happen once or twice a year, but not always visible from our location. For example, there's another one later in the year that we won't see at all because it happens when the other side of the Earth is facing towards the moon. So it'll happen, for us, it'll happen during the daytime when the moon is down. So um, there's these eclipses happening fairly regularly, but we usually get to see one every 2 or 3 years on average. Sometimes you go 4 or 5, but sometimes you get two in a year. It's just the way the timing works out. If it happens to be visible from your location or not. But this is the first one that we've seen for 3 years here in North America. And let's see, I want to pop back here. Yeah, it is a very dark eclipse. there's still a little bit of moon, of brightness of the moon visible along the top there. Uh, Again, the shadow of the Earth sort of fades in, and the light um, gets bent a little bit by the Earth's atmosphere, and the red color gets bent the most. So the center of the shadow is where most of the red is. Along the outside, most of the other colors also get to that part, and so they mix together and make white. So usually what happens is as the moon goes through the shadow, you get one side of the moon sort of fading from the white color through orange to red, and then that brighter area will rotate around the moon as it sort of moves through the shadow. The side that's farthest away from the center of the shadow will be the bright side. So we'll see quite a bit of change um, over the next, let's see, 60 some minutes as the moon goes through its total phase, its total eclipse phase. I'm just going to go and see what I can see through the visual scopes, and I'll come back and report shortly. So enjoy the view, and we'll be back in just a couple minutes. Okay, let's bring these back. Okay, so we have a totally eclipsed moon, and it's pretty nice. And if we go back to the simulated view, so here's where we are. We've got basically the moon inside the central part of the Earth's shadow. Now it's close to one edge, and that's why one edge of the moon is brighter than the other. This is not what's called a central eclipse, where the moon would go right through the center of the shadow and get its darkest. But despite that, it is definitely a dark eclipse. If you are looking at it with your eyes, it's kind of hard to see unless you know where you're looking, which is not usual for the moon, obviously. Usually the moon is easy to find. But what was that? Have to recenter our telescope now. Go. Pressing these buttons. These telescope controllers are designed in California, I think. So they don't ever think about people having to operate them wearing mitts or anything like that. But that's okay. Let's bring this back to the middle. There. So I've increased the exposure here significantly to be able to show the moon. And I mean, I started off taking the exposure was about a 30th of a second, and now we're up to a half second for each video frame. And you know, we're still barely getting the image that we need. I might even have to go a little longer here to be able to show. There, get rid of a little bit of noise. Problem is, I now have to wait a second after pressing the button to see if I've moved the telescope the right direction. There's a delay. But still pretty nice. Sorry about that. I keep hitting the live stack button instead of the snapshot button right next to each other, and I keep missing with my gloves. Okay. There we go. Okay. Oh, thanks, folks, for mentioning the echo. Yeah, there was again another thing came on here. Clevin, who unfortunately no habla español, so I can't answer your question or comment, whatever it happens to be. Oh, good. People are out. Debbie got some pictures. Yeah, go out and take a picture with whatever you've got. I mean, it's pretty cool to take your own picture. Sure, there's going to be someone that takes a better picture than you. There's professional photographers and astronomers out there. I long ago gave up trying to get the best picture, but when you do it yourself, there's a certain satisfaction that lets you do. You know, it's my picture. I took this, and it's a reminder of something that you saw. So it's a lot more powerful than just, you know, seeing it online or whatever. Okay, let me center this again. So here in Manitoba, southern Manitoba, Treaty 1 territory, we have pretty good sky right now. In fact, I'd almost say it's clear. I think there's still a thin haze, but we've got a pretty good view. But I can barely see the moon with the unaided eye. It is so dark. And the only part that I can really see is that bright rim along the top. The rest of it, oh no, I can see the rest of it as sort of red colored. But it's very faint. So if you're looking for this yourself, get to a spot where you can block out as many of the other light sources and things like that, and turn off whatever device you're watching us on, because that light will affect your view as well. So you want, oops. So you'll want to make sure that you can get all the moonlight into your eye and no other lights. Yeah, this long exposure is really making this a little difficult to keep tracking. I'm now taking 1-second exposures to be able to show this view. And so it kind of looks the same, but if I went back to the view that we had when we started, we'd see that. So effectively nothing. Yeah, that is a very dark eclipse. Okay, there we go. Now there's a star right there. And the moon is moving towards the left as it moves through the shadow. And so the star is going to, or the moon is going to eclipse that star. It's there on the simulation as well. It's this one right here, which is, well, it doesn't even have a name in this program. But so the eclipsed moon is going to eclipse another star. And that happens all the time. It's not sort of a big deal, but it's kind of interesting. We normally don't get to watch that stuff because the moon is just too bright. But you can see them, and so we'll probably roll some video at that point just to see if we can pinpoint the time when it disappears. Let's see. Okay. Brianna is asking how long until fully red. Well, it's the peak redness should be around 158, but as I was saying just a little bit ago, this seems to be a particularly dark eclipse. We can never forecast the color exactly in advance because it depends on weather conditions all around the world and the what's in the atmosphere and all that kind of stuff. So this one is a little darker than normal, and that means the red is a little harder to see than on an average lunar eclipse. So I would say that if you have a pair of binoculars or anything like that, that will help you see the color, because that basically funnels more light into your eyes. And our eyes, we have two kinds of vision. We have color vision for daytime, and we've got black and white vision for night. So color doesn't get triggered unless there's quite a bit of light getting into your eye. And so that red color can be hard to see unless it's bright enough to get our color sensors in our eye triggered. So I'm actually having a bit of a hard time seeing the red color with my unaided eye, even when I block out the lights here. Let me just take another look. Yeah, it seems mostly almost like a dark brown. Um, so I can tell that there's a little bit of red there, but it's so dark that it's not as prominent as I've seen it in other eclipses. I've seen lunar eclipses where it's literally been blood red and really, really eerie and magical looking. This one is just so dark. And we were talking about the Mount Pinatubo eruption way back in the late 80s, early 90s or something, and the eclipse that year was black. There was no red at all. You couldn't see it. This is not quite that dark, but it's almost that dark. It's probably the darkest one I've seen since then. I was talking with Tracy over here about volcanoes, and there's a few volcanoes that are active but not spewing ash into the atmosphere or things like that. Lava doesn't really contribute to this. Plecto has asked, is it going to get more red? Yeah, well, I hope so. The camera shows the red better, and so this is kind of what we were hoping the view would be like visually, this view that I'm showing here. But because the eclipse is so dark this time around, the red is a lot harder to see visually. But yeah, try binoculars if you have them. If not, try your phone. Take a picture of it, and that will actually show the the red color a little bit better. Oh boy. There's just enough wind out here to be chilly. So we're about 11 minutes away from great eclipse, it's called, the time when the moon is as deep into the Earth's shadow as it will go this time around. So that'll be the time when it'll be at its darkest and its theoretically its reddest, but also its darkest. So we'll see what we see, and then basically from that point, the whole thing unwinds and reverses, and we get to see the whole thing play out in reverse over the next 3 hours. So we'll stay throughout totality for sure, and into the partial eclipse phases again, but it'll depend on the weather here. If it clouds over, we'll probably wind up ending the stream, and we'll if it stays clear, we'll stick around as long as we can. Let's see here. Looks like we're going to be eclipsing that star pretty soon. It's gotten a little bit closer to the moon's edge there. The moon is sort of heading towards it. It's going to run it over. Go. We can hear some geese in the background. The Canada geese have started returning, and we heard one earlier, and now they are hawking up a storm over there. Brianna asks, "Why do you have the Scorpio on the screen?" Oh, the red M there, that's the logo of the Manitoba Museum. That's where I work, and that's who is basically supporting this operation. So that's what the M is for. Ben is asking, would it be brighter at a different latitude? No, it turns out that the thing about a lunar eclipse, everybody on the nighttime side of the world is seeing the same effect, because it's not something that's happening here at the Earth. It's something that is affecting the light that reaches the moon. And so everybody that can see the moon, no matter where they are, basically gets the same view. So the main difference would be, if you happen to have clearer skies, or if you happen to live on top of a mountain where you don't have as much atmosphere, you'd get a better view of that kind of thing. But the rest of it basically would stay the same. Kim, would you say 1 on the Dan-John scale? That's a good question. The Dan-John scale is a back before photography and precise measurements. They would basically rate how dark the lunar eclipse was, and I think it's a 5-point scale. I'd say it's pretty close, a 1 or maybe a 2. I don't think it's a 0, because that was the Mount Pinatubo one. So yeah, I'd say a 1. It's definitely really dark, though. I'm kind of floored, because I was not expecting that. Nobody was talking about this being a particularly dark eclipse. So it's kind of surprising. Oh, that star is right on the moon's limb there. Hopefully, let's get you guys able to see that. There we go. Right at about 9 o'clock on the moon, right up against the edge, there's a star there, and the moon's going to go right over it. There's also a star at about 7 o'clock, quite far from the moon, almost at the bottom of the frame there. And the moon is going to eclipse both of those stars as we sit here and watch. And it's still there, still there. I can still kind of see it. Maybe we'll zoom in on that part. There we go. We can just see it on the edge there. And oh, and now it's gone. Just disappeared instantly behind the moon. Now we're taking 1-second exposures, but even still, if you were watching it in real time, stars are so far away that they're essentially just points, and when the moon moves in front of them, they just wink out immediately. except in a few interesting cases. That's a whole nother story, but um, by watching the moon eclipse different stars, we can actually learn a lot about those stars. So, um, yeah, like I say, that's a little bit beyond the scope of tonight's discussions, but if you're interested in stuff like that, the other folks that are out here, the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada's Winnipeg Center, has monthly meetings that you can either attend at in person at the U of M or you can watch online. Um, and the next one's tomorrow night, so it's usually the second Friday of the month at 7 o'clock. And if you well, you might be watching on their Facebook page or YouTube page right now, but you can visit winnipeg.rasc.ca, and that will take you to the Winnipeg Center's webpage, and details of the events and stuff like that are on there. If you're a paid member of the club, which is, I forget what it is, I think it's like $100 a year or something like that. You can use their library of telescopes, take them out and use the telescopes. You can use their observatory, and there's a few other sort of bells and whistles that members of the club get to do. Here come the geese. Oh, I was hoping we'd get some flying in front of the moon, but no. Too bad. Oh well. That would be a good picture. Okay, and the wind has picked up. So happy about that. Here's our telescope that we're using, just a relatively small telescope. You don't need much to look at the moon. It's kind of black, so it's not very helpful. Here we go, and there's a special astronomy camera on the bottom, but it's a glorified webcam pretty much, and that runs into the computer, and that gives us a view of what we see on the screen there. So pretty basic equipment for astronomy. And yeah, I'm wishing I had worn another pair of long underwear. Okay, I'm going to take a little warm-up break, and I'll be back in a few minutes. We are about 4 minutes away from mid-eclipse, so enjoy the view of the moon. This is the darkest and reddest it will get in about 4 minutes, and then we'll watch the rest of the eclipse. I hope you stick around. Okay.
So for this phase of the eclipse, with all these lights on, would we see a really good form?
Um, I don't know.
Necessarily.
I don't think so. It's such a dark eclipse that
Yeah.
we're just we're just not seeing it as much as we normally would.
So you're taking 1 second exposures
Yeah.
and stacking them.
Or I'm not stacking them at this point. They're
Okay.
just single 1 second
Just
exposures.
single 1 second exposures.
Excuse me while I choke on a donut.
No problem.
So yeah, the here's the here's the unaided eye view.
Wow.
Basically, you
Ah.
can barely see anything.
Yeah. That's what I was basically getting out of my camera. So
Oh yeah, yeah.
I had to play around with the histogram probably a little bit more.
Processing brings things out, but even this, look
Yeah.
how noisy this is because
Yeah.
there's
just
so
dark.
much stuff. Yeah, it's just so dark.
Even in the binos, I'm not seeing much at all.
Yeah. So, for those of you that were hoping for the blood moon, unfortunately, it's a darker moon during the eclipse than we've had before, and so that color is really not as apparent to the unaided eye. Shows up in binoculars and telescopes a little bit. Shows up on the camera pretty well, but it has definitely not been all that bright in the view for the eyes. Let's see. Brianna, you're welcome, Brianna. We'll answer your questions anytime. Bunch of people talking about being a Scorpio. Um, let's see. Yes. Oh, Hollis, nice to see you. One of our regular Dome at Home listeners. Total clouds in Connecticut. Sorry. Yeah, we were hoping to have clear skies, but I really thought we were going to get just pasted by the clouds. There's an Alberta clipper coming in tomorrow, bringing us, well, today, bringing us snow. So, Wendy, having some issues with the pictures. Yeah, often your phone camera will try, it thinks it knows better than you, and it will try to adjust the pictures. If you can zoom in and if you know how to set the exposure on your camera, you just hold your finger on the moon or whatever you're trying to take a picture of, and it should both focus and also adjust the exposure. But hopefully that will work for you. If not, there'll be plenty of pictures that are coming up. See you, Abdul. Some of the folks are starting to pack up and go home. It's just after 2 here, local time, Central Time here in Winnipeg and Treaty 1 territory. And we have the totally eclipsed moon for another 23 minutes. Mercy. Oh, out in California. Nice. 3-day annual rains. Hey, wow. That's, yeah. You need the rain. So, I mean, it's too bad it happens during the eclipse, but hopefully it'll keep the fires down this year around. But, yeah, there's a few places across the country that seem to be clear and, excuse me. I'm surviving on coffee and donuts here, basically. So, coming up, for those of you that just came across our stream, this is put together by two different groups, the Manitoba Museum, which is where I work, and we run a monthly show called Dome at Home. We started during COVID doing basically online planetarium shows, and it sort of turned into an astronomy talk show that runs the last Thursday of every month on our Facebook and YouTube channel at the Manitoba Museum. So you can join us for that if you'd like. That's another way to, well, the next one will be showing all the viewers' images of the eclipse and looking ahead to the events that are coming for the next month and so on. There's also, for those of you here in Canada, the other partner that we're with is the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada. They have chapters in most major cities across the country, and they're the local astronomy club. So it's just people that enjoy looking at the sky. Oh, somebody's car alarm. So we have members across the country in different places. Some people have their own telescopes, some people don't. Some people are learning how to observe the sky. Some people have been doing it for 50 years and are experts. And it's just a good way to learn about doing astronomy as opposed to just reading about it or watching it or whatever. You can actually do astronomy from your backyard, even with just your eyes or binoculars or a small telescope. So if you're interested in that, RASC, Royal Astronomical Society of Canada. So rasc.ca is their website. And there's a list of there's got to be more than 30 centers now across the country. So pick the one closest to you. And they usually have meetings, and many of them have observatories that their members can use, or telescope blending libraries and all that kind of stuff. So let's adjust the scope here. We're still taking very long exposures to be able to see the moon because it is so dark. Oops. Makes it a little hard to adjust the telescope with the delay that the image has. There we go. Come on, come on. Back into place. Okay. Yeah, Mercy, yes, we definitely bring donuts when we do events like this because, you get home from work, you pack all the gear that you need, you hope you don't forget anything. You usually wind up eating something quick on the way so you can get there and set up. And we had some technical stuff at the beginning, so donuts definitely are keeping us going here. Melissa, oh, clear out in Westmore, nice. I'm glad. Now back to bed. Okay. Good night. I'm glad you got a picture. Glad you joined us. We'll chat again. Okay. So the bright part of the moon has sort of rotated around a little bit. It was more, say, 12, 1, 2 o'clock, and now it's more sort of 10, 11, 12 o'clock because the moon has moved through the Earth's shadow. And so now if we look at the simulated view, see that side is closer to the edge of the shadow, so that's where it's going to start getting brighter and brighter. The moon is moving basically from right to left in this image here, and it will start exiting the shadow about 2:28, I think, is the time. Oh, Pat, nice to see you from Nanaimo. Good to see you. I'm glad you got a chance to see it live out there. And yeah, it's nice to have the telescope view and the camera view, but there's also something cool about seeing it with your own eyes. I mean, this is light that was born in the heart of the sun and traveled all the way across the distance of 150 million kilometers, just skimmed the Earth's atmosphere to get deflected into the Earth's shadow, to hit the moon, bounce off the moon, and then wind up inside your head, coming through your eye. That's a that's a connection that you just can't get from a screen. So if you do get the chance, definitely take a look at the real eclipse. Just gonna see if I can get a view. Wow. So to the unaided eye, from where I am sitting, you kind of see the left edge of the moon being kind of whitish, but still quite dim. And then the rest of it sort of looks almost chocolate brown. I guess that's the red just barely triggering into the gray part of the shadow. And my eyes just are not seeing much of the red. This is a very dark eclipse. So we're going to be staying through totality, and we will stay for a little bit of the partial phase. But the battery pack that we're running all the gear on will probably not last throughout the entire total or the entire partial phase. So we won't be staying till 5 a.m. unfortunately. Um, so right now everything is running off of one high-end battery pack, which is normally what I run my telescope equipment on, but we're also running all the streaming stuff as well, and that's taking a little bit more power. So I imagine we'll probably be here till about, if you know, another half hour, 45 minutes is about what we've got left power-wise. But that's okay because that, basically from that point, we're just seeing a repeat of what we have seen at the beginning. As soon as the moon starts moving out of the central part of the Earth's shadow, as soon as we get out of this umbral shadow, the center part, the bright part of the moon reappears and that washes out any other color. So the rest of the shadow will just appear gray again or black. And then over the course of the next hour, the moon will move out of the umbral shadow of the Earth and uncover itself and eventually get back to full brightness around 5 a.m. But we won't have enough power, unfortunately, to stay all the way through there. But still, it's been a pretty good night so far. Actually, I should remember to take another picture here because the color has really changed in terms of what we can see. It's gotten very sort of orangey coppery color. Maybe if I adjust the camera a little bit, we can, yes, maybe something like that. That's a little bit more representative of what it would look like through binoculars, with the subtle shading all the way from the bright sort of white on the left down to the orangey red on the right. Oh. Well, thanks folks who are up, and thanks for those of you that are going to check it out. Let's see. Oh, Nasli, nice to see you as well. Good morning. Nice to see you. Oh, I'm glad you got clear skies out, East. Good for you. Enjoy the view. Jessica, is it worth going downstairs if you live in an apartment? That's one of those questions. I think it's worth the view, but if you're already in your pajamas and you don't feel like going outside, like, you don't have to push yourself. Lunar eclipses happen every couple or few years, so you're going to have the opportunity to see other ones. And it's not always a great idea to go outside downtown at 2 in the morning if you're by yourself or whatever. So that's one of the reasons we do these streams. Not everybody has a place that they can sit and watch these events, without having any issues. So here, let's get back to our live view. There we go. This is probably a better view than you get from your unaided eye, unless you happen to have a set of binoculars or something. If you've got binoculars, those will be a good view. But if you're already comfy cozy, just watch with us. I wouldn't mind actually be sitting in my house with my fuzzy slippers on and stuff like that. It's gotten colder out here. It's actually, I don't know how cold it is. Probably about -5, -6 Celsius or whatever. But there's enough breeze that it's uncomfortable. There we go. Oh, we got some more comments here. Will the video on demand of this stream be available to watch in the morning? Yes. So Facebook has been strange about videos, and they only stick around for 30 days now, apparently, or maybe that's about to hit. But the YouTube channels of wherever you're watching, whether you're watching through the Manitoba Museum or the RESC or my Scott the Skywatcher page, um, any of those Facebook pages have a corresponding YouTube channel. And if you find those, they'll be on the YouTube channel. So you'll be able to watch that in the morning for sure. And yeah, I'm going to try and go through and do a little bit of a time lapse so that we can just sort of see the whole thing in 2 minutes or whatever. All right. Um, okay. Good night, everybody that is heading to bed. Oh, Carolyn says the view outside is spectacular. Nice. Okay. Oh, Cheryl from San Vital bundled up and went outside. Nice. Great view with binoculars. That's excellent. Yeah, I'm just going to walk away from the lights here for a moment and just see if I can get a view with the unaided eye just to see what things look like. There we go. I'm just going to take a view over here and I'll be right back.
That's freaky.
Oops, sorry, I walked in front of the telescope. For those of you that were watching and saw everything go dark for a minute. Let's see. Okay, so I just went back to sort of the unaided eye view, and we can see that the left side of the moon is definitely starting to brighten up and become more visible. So we're getting to the end of the total phase of the eclipse, and the red has really moved over to sort of the right-hand side of the moon, and the maybe to the lower right, I guess. And then it fades across to orange and yellow and then to white there. And it almost looks like we're out of the shadow on the left. We're actually not yet, but the shadow is has got sort of faded edges, and so it's not like a solid demarcation there. It's just something that fades in and out. And so if we go back to our sim here, using Stellarium, actually I'll blow that up a little bit so we can see a bit similar size. So this program is called Stellarium. It's a free downloadable planetarium program, and it basically will show you where everything in the sky is from your house or from any other location in the world. We use it all the time for creating the visuals for some of our web contents and my monthly sky vlog that we do for the Manitoba Museum. And it's great for finding constellations or where the planets are, or whatever, and it's free, so it's a great resource. It also does a really good job of simulating eclipses, which is a fairly complicated thing to do with software because there's so many variables to deal with. But even the appearance of the moon, where the bright part is, and so on, it's not too far off. And the circle here, that's the edge of the umbra, the dark part of the Earth's shadow. That is where we'll get the bright part of the moon appearing as soon as the moon moves outside of that zone. Back to our live view here. There we go. Just get this back in. Oops, happened there. Getting our exposure down a bit here. The moon is brightening up a little bit, so that's pretty nice. Emphasizes the red a little bit. Probably exaggerating it a little bit, but that's okay. That's this view. Let's grab a little bit of video of that one and turn that into a nice picture. Once you start getting cold, it just goes downhill from there, right? Okay, so we're actually coming to the point where the moon is going to start moving out of the shadow, the deeper shadow, the umbral shadow of the Earth, which will mark the end of the total lunar eclipse. Then we'll have about an hour of partial eclipse, and then another hour or so of the penumbral eclipse, the really faint, hardly noticeable part of the eclipse, but is still technically part of that eclipse. Power looks like we might have, another half hour tops, unfortunately, though, for our stream. So that will be, we'll go as long as we can. But once things go down, that'll be it for our stream. We will put some of our pictures posted up on the various websites, social media sites tomorrow morning. Not super early because I'm going to go have a nap. But after that, we'll get some of the pictures up. So if you want to see some of the stills that are processed and so on. And, if you look around, there's a number of photography groups and astronomy groups online. In Manitoba, there's the Manitoba Aurora and Astronomy Facebook group that started off mostly focusing on Northern Lights, but there's some amazing photographers in that group, and I'm sure they're all out shooting pictures of the lunar eclipse as well, because it's one of those really photogenic moments where the universe just poses nicely for a picture, and turns out really nice. So I'm sure tomorrow there will be no end of these pictures all over your social media feeds. Okay, it's time for another quick warm-up break, and I will be back shortly. So enjoy the view here. I'll just get it back centered so you can have a good view of the ending of the partial eclipse. Let's see, it looks like we have another minute or so to go. Oh, it was 2:32. Was that the time? Yeah, so about 2 minutes left before we start getting the really bright part of the moon coming back. So this is your last couple of minutes of red sky, of red moon. I'll stick around until after that happens, before I take my warm-up break. Yeah, we're almost coming out of the umbra now. Another probably less than a minute. You can already see the bright part of the moon starting to overwhelm the color on that side around the 10 o'clock position, but won't take much more before start to lose that view entirely. Yeah, in fact, you can now see the in the unaided eye view, you can start to see the moon coming out of the shadow just a little bit. I'm going to see if I can spot it with the unaided eye here. Yeah, it's much brighter now, and actually the color is a little bit more visible than it has been. I think just the fact that it's brightening up enough has made it a little bit more visible. So if you are watching visually, now's a good time to see that red color with your unaided eye or with binoculars. There we go. Bring that here. Yeah, now very quickly we're starting to see the bright part of the moon just poking out from that shadow view. If we flip back to stellarium here, it's just starting to poke out, and over the next minute or so, that'll really change the view that we get as the color starts to be overwhelmed by the glare of the bright moon. That's a really nice shot right there. Pretty happy with that. I'm really glad that we did get some clear skies here. I was thinking that we were going to be clouded out completely, and then when we got here, you could see a bright spot where the moon was, but it wasn't enough to focus on, so we couldn't see anything. And now we have pretty much clear skies with just a little bit of haze. So this has turned out pretty nice. Yeah, so now the red is starting to disappear, and there's that coppery color that's across the middle there, but the red is really getting pushed off just by that little bit of bright moon. Again, if we flip back to sort of the naked eye view, there's just a tiny little bit of the moon that has come out of the shadow, but that's enough brightness to start to overwhelm the color. The wind has picked up again. Yay. Ah, oh, hi Holly. Nice to hear from you. I'm glad you got a chance to see it. And yeah, we're hearing quite a bit of geese too. They're flying around there and keep honking and going overhead. I hope that one will fly across our view of the moon. That would be a great shot, but haven't had that happen yet. That usually happens a little earlier or a little later in the year when they're all flocking in and returning. You can take a picture of the moon and get a bunch of geese silhouetted. Okay, I'm gonna set this up for you, and then I'm gonna take a quick warm-up break, and then I'll be back in a few minutes because I can't feel my toes. But that's okay. I got a bunch. There we go. Okay. Enjoy the view. I'll be back in a bit.
Got it inside.
Yeah, so maybe just a little warm up.
That is. Oh, wow, it's starting to pop.
Look up stuff. Okay, a little warm up, and now just do a little recenter here, but you can see how dramatically things have changed. We've got the curved edge of the moon's shadow there. The overexposed part there is outside the umbral shadow, and we're overexposing so we can still see the color here. But if we flip to sort of the unaided eye view, that's what we're seeing in the sky now. When you look up there, and actually you can still see some of the red color with the unaided eye. It's not nearly as bad as it was earlier. I guess because we have a nicer view of clearer skies, that really makes a big difference. But yeah, actually, this is a pretty good view of what we're seeing with the unaided eye and binoculars right now. There's a bright part of the moon, the crescent on the left, the curved shadow of the Earth, and then a grayish shadow with sort of a hint of a reddish or brownish glow to it. For those of you that have just joined us recently, this is one of the darkest lunar eclipses in recent memory, which made it a little harder to see the red color, but each eclipse is different, and you know it's definitely not something you can predict in advance, unfortunately. Just take a look at the chat here, and oh, Jessica, you went down and checked it out. Excellent. I'm glad it was worth it. Good stuff. Oh, and Kevin, good job. Okay. Oh, Phyllis out in Newfoundland. Nice. Yeah. I don't know if you are aware of the folks, Chris Kerwin at Astronomy by the Bay. He was doing a live stream from New Brunswick, I think, but I'm not sure if you got a chance to see any of his live stream, but you should definitely check him out as well. Being in your time zones, that makes it convenient. See you, Kim. Good night. We'll see everybody. Oh, could you say? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Sarah, um, there's a club in Canada called the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada, and they have individual chapters in about 30 cities across the country, all the sort of major cities, I guess. And I'm a member of the Winnipeg Center, but I mean, it sounds like a formal organization, you know, Royal Astronomical Society of Canada, but it's basically Canada's astronomy club. And so it's made up of people that are interested in looking at the stars. Some people have telescopes, some people don't. Some people join so that they can learn about telescopes or whatever. Some people do photography or imaging. Some people do sort of armchair astronomy where you're talking about or looking at astrophysics or that kind of stuff. There's all sorts of different ways to experience the universe. RASC.ca is the website for the National Society, and each chapter has its own website that you can find out the information on their meetings and things like that. Winnipeg Center usually meets the second Friday of the month. So tomorrow night, we'll be meeting at the University of Manitoba. You can find information about that on our website, which is winnipeg.rasc.ca. And that will let you watch you can either join us in person or you can join us virtually through the Facebook and YouTube channels. We live stream all of our meetings. There's a few other things. Of course, the Manitoba Museum's planetarium where I work has all sorts of astronomy stuff. You can come and see our live Manitoba Skies show, which basically tells you what's up in the sky and so on. We've got a monthly blog that I write for the website, manitobamuseum.ca, that tells you all about what's up in the sky and so on. There's also a planetarium here at the U of M, the Lockhart Planetarium, and they have open houses. I think it's the last Wednesday of the month, but you'd have to check the U of M's webpage. Just search for Lockhart Planetarium and you'll find out when their open houses are. Oak Hammock Marsh was doing some astronomy nights. I think they were closed for renovations recently, but they might be open up again. You'd have to check their website, but when they get those started again, if they're not already running, that's a wonderful astronomy event as well, because Oak Hammock is a nice dark site. It's pretty far away from the city, and it's a bit of a drive, but it really gets you a nice dark sky of nice dark view of the stars. Let's just do a little adjustment here. Okay. So yeah, still a little bit of red color there. I can bring that out a little bit, I think, if I push this in. Yeah, there we can see the red. You know, if I really exaggerate it, but probably don't need to do that. Let's just see here what I can do. There we go. Yeah, sort of now more a sort of a browny orange color, and that bright part of the moon that is outside of the Earth's shadow is really starting to overwhelm the view. We're really starting to run low on power here. The temperature has gone down, so um, I'm going to say that we're going to sign off at 3. We might make a few minutes after that, but based on the power readout of my Jackery here, 3 o'clock is probably when we're going to sign off. There we go. So I'm glad that some of you have been able to join us for the eclipse and see this. It did not start out looking good with the weather. We had some clouds, and now we have pretty much a clear sky with a nice view of the eclipse. And for those of you watching online, hopefully you're nice and warm and sitting somewhere where you're comfortable. It's a little chilly and windy out here, but I can make it. I'll last longer than my battery pack will. So that'll be our view. And then we'll pack it all up and we'll do it again sometime. One of the things that is kind of nice is we can come up and do streaming events like this relatively easily. We'll try and do another one um, coming up for International Astronomy Day in May. That's a day where usually there's a public event out at Assiniboine Park where people can view the sun through special solar telescopes and also the moon. And then there's a nighttime star party where we set up telescopes and we look at the moon, and Jupiter will still be up, I think, and then whatever else is in the sky. So that's an opportunity. If you've never had a chance to see things through a telescope in person before, that's definitely something to keep in mind. Saturday, May the 10th is International Astronomy Day, so closer to the date, you'll see some information come out about that. If you visit the Manitoba Museum's website, you can sign up for our newsletter and get all the information about new planetarium shows and stuff like that. If you join the RASC, the Astronomy Club, same thing. You can follow their Facebook page, or if you're a paid member, you get access to the forums, and you also get access to the telescope lending library and the observatory and things like that. So a lot of really good resources for people to get into astronomy. Oh boy. So yeah, this is I'm glad that we didn't take the early weather forecast and just say forget it, because there was some discussion about, should we even bother setting up? Are we going to just be completely covered? Oh, I've been recording all of those frames. Wow, that's a lot of frames. Okay. Let's see here. Oh, James, thanks for putting all the stuff in the chat. I appreciate that. James was inside with his fingers warm so he could type and added the astronomy information there. Oh, Brian from Kitchener, nice to see you. Glad that you got all of that. Very good. Love to see your pictures. If you wanna send us your pictures to space@manitobamuseum.ca, we'll put them on our Dome at Home show. We love to show off the pictures that people take of the events that we promote, stuff like that. So if you're interested, no proper credit, of course, but we would show your pictures on our show. Sarah, I'm glad you got a good view. Oh, nice. Oh, so you woke up and had some daughter time. That is fantastic. I remember my parents woke me up to see a lunar eclipse when I was a kid, and then the next year was the solar eclipse that came through Winnipeg, and those were formative events in my life. And the solar eclipse, particularly, was the thing that made me decide, okay, I'm going to do this for my life. This is part of me now. Um, so uh, those kinds of experiences are priceless. Great job, and I hope you enjoyed it. Okay, the battery is clicking down. So you know what? I'm gonna have to sign off, folks. Otherwise, this is just gonna drop out in the middle of things. Thanks for joining us. Again, this was put together by the Manitoba Museum's Planetarium here in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, in Treaty 1 territory, and the Winnipeg Center of the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada. You can find them at winnipeg.rasc.ca. This is your local Manitoba astronomy community, and I know that there's some folks out in Brandon and in Westman. There's an astronomy club, and there's people scattered all over the province that are into astronomy. It's a great thing to do with uh, with other people. It's a nice social activity as well as being fun to sort of commune with the universe and realize, that all of the things happening here on Earth, while they're big and important to us, they're part of this much bigger system, and it sometimes it's very cathartic to get away from all the things going on in the world and just spend some time with the stars. It's great therapy. Thanks for joining us, everybody. I hope you have a great evening, morning, I guess. And we'll post some of these pictures for tomorrow. But we're going to sign off now because the battery is about to die. Thanks again.